All right, ladies and
Saludos.
gentlemen.
Oh shit.
Well, I mean,
My
my
bad.
man, at least let me do the intro.
Restart.
All right.
All right. Well, we're live, pal. Anyway, so we'll redo it. All right, so three, two, one, and ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We are back with Boris Jug, who you will not see what he will be saying. Zach is here with us as well, and we are back
Saludos.
with. Yep, we are back with Puerto Rican wrestling historian, the gunslinger, here on the Pantry Discord. And we're going to be continuing the tale of the Puerto Rican scene in 2001, if I remember correctly, right?
Correct.
Okay, so Gunslinger, what was going on in 2001 in the Puerto Rican scene?
Well, all right. Last time we left off, I believe I was talking about the angle where Shane was betrayed by Savio Vega, the start of the corporation, the end of the Star Corporation faction, and I believe I also talked a bit about Apollo and Ricky Banderas. Sorry, and I believe I was also talking about some of the undercard guys, some of the Japanese guys that had come to the company, and some of the other stars that were coming from Mexico and the States. Sorry about that.
Nah, you're fine.
Um, Sorry about that. Yeah. So, as 2001 continues on, we are seeing the houses go up. We move over to 2002, and the beginning of the Savio Vega Corporation faction war versus Banderas, Apollo, and Shane, specifically those last two, begins. Now, one thing that is worth mentioning is uh, I believe around, I want to say 2002 is when Apollo turns heel and joins the corporation. Now, this is done a lot of the times is because uh, Apollo wants the title, so that way we can bring it into the fold, and that way we can put the strap on it. This is done a lot in IWA booking as a sort of way to kill the two birds, one stone, right?
Right.
You've got Ricky as a babyface. Shane can't turn babyface because he is by every means the bedrock of that trio, and Apollo can turn easily face and heel because there's really he's huge, he's intimidating. Yes, he's got a great look. Not the best talker in the world, but he gets by good enough. So we can easily turn him heel. Ricky already has the. Oh yeah, this is another thing. Ricky already begins the Messiah gimmick that Moody Jack had come up with one night in. I think it was either Bayamon, Carolina, the Carolinas, or whatever. He had come up and to Victor and Savio and did the Messiah pose. You know, the two arms raised up and stuff like that, like Jesus Christ, and said the Messiah, and that's how it was born because it was perfect. You know, he had the whole vampire blood thing coming out, the white eyes with the contact lenses and the black eyeliner. Sorry. So as Ricky was doing that gimmick at last, and he was kind of starting to find his footing a little bit. He was doing a little bit of this kind of Gangrel sort of Undertaker meets Undertaker sort of stuff. This the corporation starts. So this leads us into, I believe, the spring to summer period, which was a really hot time for IWA. At this time, we've got some other stars that are starting to come up. There's a faction known as Lucha 101. Now, Lucha 101 consisted of Stefano, who was a worker who had started up in the late 99, 2000. He was jacked to the gills. He looked like a miniature version of Billy Kidman back in his day. He was, in a sense, his gimmick, in a sense, was he was metrosexual, right? Because this time Puerto Ricans are starting to get into like the whole metrosexuals. They're homosexuals. They just haven't like admitted it to themselves. You know what I mean? So he kind of plays up to that, but it's always implied, but it's never said, right? Uh, Another guy who, interestingly enough, was a member of the WWC Locker at this time, was also his tag team partner down the line. His name was the Paparazzi, and the Paparazzi is very famous because he's also very effeminate, but he's a really great talker. He has an incredible sense of humor. He's snarky. He's really, really great at getting heat from the fans. He's always looked really skinny. He's one of the last, jobbers to ever work with Bruiser Brody. In fact, there's actually a recording of him getting his ass kicked in one of the shows from WWC, but I'd have to look it up. Um, so he's gonna be, he was a bit of a jobber throughout the '90s, but he's gonna be a fixture going forward in IWA, and he's gonna be having his own segment, a very famous segment actually called El Tocoton, which I don't know exactly the translation, but it means basically the talk a talk show or something like that.
The talk or something like that.
It's something like that. It's like talk the talk, like something like that. Sorry, I'm having a bit of trouble with the allergies, but so the Paparazzi is obviously going to be a fixture. Now, going back to Lucha 101, the other two members of that faction, or rather three, sorry, are going to be, if I recall, Anarchy is in it. He's going to be IWA Tag Team Champion with Chicano down the line. And I think they might have had the Freebird rule, but I don't quote me on that one. I don't remember exactly if Escobar, who was the other member, was also IWA Tag Team Champion with him. So the last one that the last two I want to talk about, Escobar, of course, who would go on to FCW and WWE. He would be in SmackDown brand, and he would become a rather kind of like lost star in the shuffle of the 2010 to 2011 period. He came up actually with Mike Knox and Drew McIntyre. Actually, he was part of that generation, and actually spoke pretty well about both of them. So he's going to be part of that. He's about 6'3", jacked to the gills, moves around great in the ring. Obviously, he was picked up. Later, he goes down to World Wrestling League and becomes a big heel, and he is really good at it because he plays on the sort of racist, homophobic, sexist kind of thing. He's just a massive piece of garbage. Of course, he retired from professional wrestling. He's now a family man. I believe he had twins, actually. So that was Escobar. Now, the last one that I want to talk about, who's going to be a very, very big fixture of IWA going forward down in 2004 and 5 and 6, that is Chicano. If some of you that might have watched AAA might know him as El Ilegal, the illegal one. This is because Chicano in Mexico is there's actually another wrestler who's called El Chicano, who very famous mask wrestler from the '80s.
Also Chicano Power, right?
Yeah, there you go, Chicano Power, and Sangre Chicana. Chicano blood is the translation to that. Both of those already had that name, so they said, okay, well, you're not really Mexican, you're Puerto Rican. We'll give you the illegal name. And he's traveled a good fair amount to the States, of course, and he's going to be a very big fixture. He originally was a baseball player who became a professional wrestler. He started off in the junior heavyweight and tag team divisions. He joins with Lucha 101 to try and feud with some of the foreign guys like, Andy Anderson, a guy by the name of Vasago, who was this kind of big 6'3" dude who was just like sort of a jobber. He also wrestles with a guy by the name of Payne, who was this 7-foot tall white dude who was he was huge, but he never went anywhere. I guess he might have been WWF developmental. Who knows? I'd have to look it up.
Is this the same guy that is this Bull Buchanan you're talking about?
No, Bull Buchanan. No, that's another dude.
Okay, yeah, okay. Because I think he went by the name Bull Payne one time, so sorry, I got confused.
Yeah, no. Bull never really came down here. This dude was just Payne. He was very big and lanky. And there would be another dude by the name of Colossal or Colossus, but that's later down the road. So, the other Midcarders included Tommy Diablo, who was a very famous junior heavyweight division guy. Of course, we also had Cruz. Cruz was another guy that was coming up. He had started off in WWC as Kike Cruz, but moved over to IWA in the early I want to say 2002 2003 period, and became just Cruz. And he would join a faction with I believe it was El Diabolico, who was another fixture of IWA. He was a famous mid-carder. Uh, Kind of a small dude. He was really round and punchy. He kind of looked a little bit like back when he had the mask, a little bit like the Villanos from WCW. You know, big pudgy round dude.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, him and another guy by the name of Draco. Draco would let her get betrayed by the other guy who joined that faction, the Cross of the Devil, or La Cruz del Diablo in Spanish. He would later end up getting betrayed and slammed to the fucking ground by a guy by the name of Spectro, who was one of the guys that used to teach me actually when I was starting out when I was 18. Spectro is this other 6'4" dude. He's a big powerhouse. He basically wears this kind of big black leathery ugly mask. He's kind of a Kane character type. But he kind of fleshed himself out a little bit more. He looks like a Mortal Kombat character today. He would be also another fixture, and later down the line, he'd win his first IWA championship, I believe, I want to say when the company was just about to close down in 2012, 2013, for the first time, anyways. So these are basically some of the big names that are on your card at this moment. Other names include Golden Boy and Noel Rodriguez, who's the son of Victor Rodriguez, Victor the Bodyguard, and of course Chicky Star's there. Now, in 2002, the corporation would begin feuding with Ricky Banderas and Shane. So, as Shane and Ricky were feuding with them, Sabio decides to bring in the big guns. This means that there is the big acquisition that I was talking about in the last episode, Thunder and Lightning, who would be called or dubbed the Heavy Artillery. They would be brought in. They would be managed by El Profe. In the spring of 2002, if I recall, they would begin feuding for the tag team titles and eventually win them in a house show, if I recall. Then in the big pay-per-view, they defend them and they keep them, I believe, for the rest of the year. And if I also recall, this is around the time where they debuted the black outfits with the long sleeves instead of having the muscles out. Although they would vary between the two. Would kind of look like Kane with thunderbolts on their chests a little bit. The outfits for Thunder and Lightning are very famous. They're very iconic in the island, which, nobody had ever seen something like that for the wrestlers. They'd usually see something, more like Lucha Libre. But Thunder and Lightning just had such a unique pair. Now, Lightning, if I recall, is allegedly mute. I think he might be really mute. Not sure 100%. The other one is Thunder. Now, Thunder was, as I explained previously, a former cop turned wrestler. He is this gigantic wall of a man. He's the powerhouse of the two. He does the talking. His voice sounds like a goddamn thunder, like actual thunder, because he just sounds like this, kind of like Dr. Wagner Jr. So he's going to be doing the talking. He's going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Lightning's going to be doing a lot of the working. So it's really a case where these guys are basically the second coming of I want to say the Invaders, but not really. They really came into their own thing at this time. Now,
I'll be right back.
with the corporation, as the feud goes on to the Summer Attitude pay-per-view becomes one of the biggest anticipated events of the year. This is because there's going to be a massive blow-off for the IWA Championship, where I believe it was Ricky Banderas was going to fight Apollo, and this is going to be the first real big time where Apollo's going to be the heel, Ricky's going to be the babyface. Shane is going to be facing one of Savio Vega's foreigners at this time, and in the rest of the card is going to be wrestling other foreigners such as Conan. I believe Paparazzi's going to be fighting some of the other people for the tag team titles. or at least number one contendership for the tag team titles. But none of that really matters, because what matters is this house drew one of the largest gates on the island up until then. It was held in the, if I recall, Maya West Basketball Coliseum. The Coliseum can hold about, I want to say, like 20,000 people, 25,000 people, or something like that. Close to 30,000, I believe. According to Moody Jack and some of the other guys in the back, the building was packed full, including with the cops and everybody, the wrestlers. But there was about, they want to say like 7,000 or 8,000 people that were still outside waiting for the results, because they wanted to see the show that bad. So they started putting up, something, or a TV or something, a live feed, so they could all watch. Now, the results of this show end with, I believe it was Ricky Banderas becoming the IWA champion. Apollo loses. The corporation takes a blow. Now, the booking decision behind that is as follows. After, or during, I believe towards the end of the summer period, right around this period, IWA had contracted a massive acquisition from WWC. And as it turns out, this acquisition would be done in the middle of the night. They'd have to go to Dorado, which is a town here in Puerto Rico, to negotiate with Ray Gonzalez, who would be coming in under a mask by the name of the Phoenix. And this was sort of symbolic because Ray was sort of having a rebirth. At this time, the Millennium family, La Familia del Milenio, as they call it, was just floundering. Thunder and Lightning was left. Bronco had become the number one heel in the company to sort of fill out Ray's spot. A lot of the stars were leaving, let alone a lot of the generation that came up in late 90s, including, Carlito was already in WWE. El Diamante was a few years away from coming to IWA. I believe in 2004 that would be the case. And in 2002 to 2003, Ray Gonzalez would make his debut as the Phoenix. Now, there's something very interesting. The mask, I always thought was just a design by Ray. It turns out Anarchy, who was a member of the Lucha 101 faction, had been asked by Miguel Perez, to design a mask, not specifically for anyone, just like something like a phoenix or a bird or something, because he could draw. And he designed it without knowing that Ray was going to be brought in to the company. So he makes the mask, brings it to the show that night. I think it was like two masks. I think it was like the red one and the blue one. And that same night, he knows something's off, because the entire night, Miguel Jr. sits in front of this door. It's like a locker. It's one of the private locker rooms, one of the smaller ones, right? The entire time, everybody's like, "What's going on? Why are you standing?" Like, nope, I'm not gonna move it. The entire night, he didn't move up until the main event. Why is that? Like they wanted to keep it a surprise. So the main event comes. Everybody leaves the locker room. Everybody's told to go and leave, and nobody disturb, as they say. They go over the entire match and everything. And out comes Ray Gonzalez in the Phoenix mask. And that was the birth of one of the hottest angles in the last, 20 years. Imagine if WCW had the Scorpion angle, the Black Scorpion angle. But instead of it being Ric Flair, it was somebody that actually wasn't in the company that you didn't expect was going to come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's everything that went right with the that should have gone right with the Black Scorpion angle that went right with the Phoenix angle. And so this was must-see TV at that time. Nobody had expected Ray to ever go to IWA, because he was always such a mainstay of WWC. Carlos had brought him up. He'd become the Universal Champion. He was making thousands of dollars. Why would you leave? And that's a very easy answer. He wanted to make even more money and wanted to have somewhere where he could actually become a new kind of star and be able to wrestle in front of thousands and thousands of people like he deserved, because it's Ray. So this became must-see TV. This was some of the highest rated stuff in Telemundo. Apparently they were making like sixes at that time, which was unheard of for an island about 3 million people or something like that. relative to our size, they were making like 6 point something or 5 point something, 4 point something. I think one of the biggest rated angles was towards the end when he took off the mask in like 2003, which was just huge. It was this moment in Bayamon, you can actually look it up, where the entire crowd is just huddled around the ring and the rafters and just absolutely full to the brim. And he takes off the mask and that place wants to fall apart. But that'll be later. Now comes one of the bigger moments. Now, the entire year they're feuding with the Phoenix. They're trying to get the mask off of him. You know, everybody knows who he is, but you know they want to see him take off the mask. They want to see him take off the mask. They want to see him take off the mask. But that's not going to happen. It's always going to be a tease. There's always going to be Ray getting away with it. The corporation get away with it. But the entire time that this is happening, the idea was that they're going to create a fiction between Ray Gonzalez and Savio Vega backstage in order to be able to build Ray up as a babyface the next time around and turn Ricky heel, which is going to be, again, another big thing going forward. Now, let's move backstage to what's going on right now with Ricky, Shane, Apollo, and some of the other guys. Now, as I said before, Victor Quinones, famous poker, etc., he was having a bit of he was having a bit of trouble with drugs at this time. That would play a factor a bit going into 2004. Towards the end of the year, I believe he started talking to Mexico to see if they wanted to have Ricky Banderas come over and do a few house shows, dark matches, try out. They opened up relations with TNA in order to get some stars over as well. That would come into play in 2003 to 2004. They also lost the WWF developmental stuff. However, they got David Flair, of all people, to come over here and work before that. He became Intercontinental Champion. David was not very good. He looked like his dad, but he was not his dad in terms of the ring work. He was kind of clumsy. You know, he was lanky, but he didn't move around very well. So it was an unfortunate thing where we really tried. We really wanted to see him succeed, but it just never was, unfortunately.
Sorry to interrupt you, but if IWA was around when Reed Flair was still alive and Reed had come down there, I think it would have been a lot better, in my opinion. Because Reed, in my opinion, Reed was like what David was supposed to be. No offense to David Flair, like he tried his best, and to be honest, it's not really fair to David Flair because like his last name is Flair. Like so sometimes when you have like a name that's so great, you can never live up to it. But so he just was not meant for the business. So, he's happier outside the business, which I'm happy for. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Boris, can I?
Yeah.
Can I try?
Yeah.
Flair is one of those names that's like the Guerrero name. That's a lot to live up to.
It is. It is a lot to live up to. Yeah, I just want to say, Gunslinger, I want to ask you a question. You can come back to it if it interconnects to the story later. So, as you said earlier, they had a relationship with TNA that would be very fruitful. And, for what I remember most about the TNA is like guys like Dutch Mantel being on the booking committee at TNA, and then Savio would be like a road agent and like / trainer because later on there was a funny story that Dutch told on his podcast about how when Rinka King started, like all the Indian guys, because India didn't really have a professional wrestling promotion before that, they didn't know their green's goose shit, right? So they brought in Savio on short notice, and he trained them all to be decent professional wrestlers. So he's a pretty good trainer. Like he's pretty good. He flew all the way from Puerto Rico to India and trained a lot of guys who had no business being good to be somewhat decent.
Yeah, no, I mean Savio. I mean, he's just a machine. He loves the business, but he's boy, it'd be rough to have him as teacher because he's a really big perfectionist. I mean, there was this one time if I recall. There was a house show recently. I think it was as recent as 2021, where I think one of the guys we're supposed to do was spot in the ring. He's looking over the curtains, and apparently, from what I was told, he he watched them botch it and improvise something else. He goes into like a massive tantrum where he goes like, "No, they weren't supposed to do that," and he just throws stuff around. And
Yeah.
Miguel's off to the side going like, "Yeah, this is like everyday stuff for me." Okay.
Yeah,
Like the other one,
it's like, yeah, man. Don't you remember when you were fucking green? Like you did that shit too. Like,
yeah, no. But he does that because he wants the stuff to look great because he's still very much protective of the business.
yeah, he's
And
very. He just wants
and
the.
that's not yeah.
Yeah, he wants the island's culture of pro wrestling to be, unique and good and for it to thrive, which I respect. And it's definitely a credit to Savio, man, because like as Dutch said, like he's like I don't know anybody else who could have come on short notice in 2 weeks, train all these Indian guys who had no business being good, no business in this ring. No,
Yeah.
he said there was no fucking business being in this ring. He said if they took a bump, they were going to break their neck or something.
Yeah.
He said, yeah. He trained them into something where, if you've ever watched Ring of King, which is like a meme on the internet, which it kind of is, but half those guys aren't half bad, So credit to Savio, and he definitely was influential in the, I like to call it the Spanish-speaking part of TNA. Him, Willie Urbina, Hector Guerrero, all those guys helping the backstage role
Yeah.
on the Spanish part of TNA. Yeah, but let's continue. I just want to give Savio his
Oh,
flowers
yeah.
for that.
I mean, to give you to actually, that's another thing that I haven't covered enough. Um, God, Willie Urbina. I mean, he was pretty green when he first started in the commentary booth, but he developed and has a mind for the business that's just fantastic. And he also knows how to call a great match and get you really hyped up and motivated for the next one. As well
Yeah,
as the other guy that isn't as known but is just considered one of the best, Axel Cruz. Axel
yeah,
Cruz,
Axel Cruz. Yep.
he had he had the job of being a heel commentator, and I don't know which team I like more, him and Willie or him and Moody, because Moody had another, he was just as hyped as
Oh
Willie,
yeah,
and
we forgot Moody was also in TNA at this
yeah.
time. Um,
Actually, you want to know? I think Moody was also in the Lucha AAA Lucha Libre game in English.
yeah,
which
I remember him. Yeah.
it's really cool too. I didn't even know it was him. I thought, like, man, what do I know this guy? No, it's Will. It's Moody Jack.
Yeah. Just to tell people who a lot of our audience is English speaking, so they would never really notice the Spanish commentary. But Carlos Cabrera and Hugo in WWF were like Jim Ross and Jerry King.
Oh yeah, Hugo. The thing with Hugo is though, his commentary is not perfect for Puerto Rican wrestling. Like if you go back to WWC in the '80s, where they had a lot of commercial '80s tapes, you can hear him. And who was the other guy? Rex, or something Rex. I forget his name.
Yeah, I
God,
don't know. Yeah, I can't
I
remember
know
his name
I
off the
know
top of
who
my
he,
head.
I got an image of my head of who he is, but I can't remember the name. So I'm sorry if I'm blanking out. But yeah, it was him and the other guy. And Hugo was a lot slower speaking. He wasn't as hyped up. Then when he went to Mexico and he went to WWE and he got like this kind of soccer stadium commentator hype in his voice, and it was too much. He wasn't very good for what Puerto Rican wrestling was, but he was great for Lucha Libre because over
Yeah,
there
that's
it's faster
yeah.
pace.
If you guys want to know, Hugo, not only is he like one of the Spanish commentators now in AAA, I think with him, I think Carlos Cabrera actually joined because for some reason they fired Carlos Cabrera and put some jabronis in as the Spanish commentary team now
Yeah,
in WWE. You know, yeah, he's also with Conan, like one of the head of creative, and you can debate whether that's a good change or a bad change, but it is what it is. Um,
Jesus.
yeah,
And plus, real quick, everybody loves to meme on Savio, or not Savio, but Hugo and his brutal.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's a very iconic meme.
yeah. Of him
Uh,
and anyway, let's continue on where we left off. I just want to give Savio his flowers because he's the one that Dutch said if it wasn't for him, Ricky King would have had like 16 broken necks or something like that.
Definitely, yeah. Rinka King was. It's a meme, but god damn if Savio isn't a freaking teaching machine. But anyways, moving on. Where was I? I believe it was backstage stuff, right?
Backstage, yeah.
All right. So by 2002, I think the Japanese guys, a lot of them are, they're sort of going away a little bit more. They're not bringing them in as much because they're focusing on the island's talent, and they're just bringing in American guys. Now, 2002 goes on. The Phoenix story saga goes on. The year ends with the Christmas and PR show. Big draw for everybody. And of course, we head on to, I believe, 2003. Now, I'm going to take a small step back here for a second and address something. A lot of people don't know how many championships they had in IWA Puerto Rico. So, at this time, there was, from the bottom up, the IWA Hardcore Championship. Now, that championship would be held by pretty much everybody for either short periods of time or long periods of time. Now, the guy that a lot of people, the most that I forgot to also address in the year 2002, but also became a big fixture, the guy that is most recognized for holding that title is Flash Flanagan from WWF. But you will know him by the name that Luke Williams gave him when he arrived on the airport. He came up with the name Slash, Luke Williams did. But then Flash added the name Venom to it because he thought about the Venom character from the comics. So Slash Venom was born. At this time, he isn't known for his extra moniker. I'll get to that in 2003, I believe. But he's the most recognized hardcore champion. He basically did everything you could think of. He even worked with New Jack, bled to death with New Jack almost.
Oh, Jesus.
And he would also be, I believe, Intercontinental Champion in addition to that, and IWA Champion a few times. He'd also be Tag Team Champions with Apollo during the Corporation feud, which, speaking of which, I also forgot to address the famous Cage of Death that John Moxley had brought from Puerto Rico over to the States with WWE. That was us. We did that with the weapons on the wall with like the steel chair, the kendo stick. That stuff is on YouTube. But in 2003 here, he's going to continue being a fixture. He's going to be a little bit diminished. He's going to be brought in for a little bit less of an important role. And eventually not at all, unfortunately, because the money started to dry up by, I think, the end of this year. Or rather not dry up, but rather they'd run into some issues, and I'll address it again later. So, they had that title. They had the Junior Heavyweight Championship. That was a division that Tommy Diablo was best known for, along with other guys from Mexico like Super Crazy. Maybe Eddie Guerrero would wrestle for it, but he never really win it because I think he was a little too good for that. Tajiri would be, I believe he'd be there. The other guy that would also win it would be a guy by the name of Carlito. He'd start being a sort of dark match guy or jobber. He came in under a mask. He was, I believe, Star Roger or something. But he'd be doing tryouts later on. But at this time he's nothing. But there's other guys like Draco. Paparazzi would be wrestling for it. Stefano would be wrestling for it. Chicano would also wrestle for it. He'd actually become a champion, but he'd win it in a sort of, it was vacated way, so it's kind of like a paper champion. Another thing that another championship that was around was the Intercontinental title, and this was sort of a championship that was built for you as the top mid-carder or as the guy who's working with the guy who gets you ready for the top. A lot of guys went through this. Shane went through this. I believe Ricky went through it. Flash went through it. Don't remember if Apollo ever went through it. Probably not. He never really needed it. Chicano definitely went through it. And a bunch of other people did. Sorry if I'm forgetting anyone, if you ever listen to this. And then, of course, the tag team titles and the World Championship. Later on, we would have the Caribbean and Puerto Rican Championship. The Puerto Rican Championship, I think, is most famous for the short stint that Bryan Danielson had with it. But that's a story for another time. So in 2003, we begin the year with the Phoenix angle still strong. Ricky, I believe, was about to turn heel, but not yet. They had the legendary match at what was it? I think it's either the Robert Clemens Stadium or one of the stadiums further to the west. They had a big gate of about I want to say 15 to 20,000 people in that one too. And this is a pretty memorable show. They had Jason the Terrible in it as a sort of like attraction. They had Rick Steiner from the Steiner Brothers. He was Pitbull Steiner at this time. He was coming out with a chain and everything, and he was barking at people. I believe they also had Flash working that night against Lucha 101. They had a bunch of other people working on this card, unfortunately. One of the sad things about IWA is they never recorded their cards for every night, so it's very difficult to go back. You can go back around the shows, but you can't go back and check out some of the paper cards. So by the main event of the show would be Ricky versus the Phoenix. Now, this match is legendary not because it's like a really great match. No, it's what happens during the match. Now, the night of the show, there was some storm warnings during the entirety of the night and week, and apparently, the storm caught them at the end of the main event, and it started drizzling at first. Then the thunderbolts started coming down and stuff, and and then the real rain started pouring down heavy during like the mid part of the match. And the ring basically became a goddamn aquarium. I mean, it was an ocean. You could just like roll around in it, and it was full of water. This is very dangerous. If you've ever been in a wrestling ring, you'd know that if you're going to do top rope moves, you got to keep your balance and such. And of course, you're wet, so you can't grab your opponent as well. I mean, they were basically risking their lives, to break a neck or something like that.
Yep.
And these guys, to their credit, they worked the entire match under that rainstorm. This is pretty universally recognized as the match of the millennium because it's a dream match. It's Ray versus Ricky. They're both the top stars. They're both in the best shape of their goddamn lives. And everybody that was there did not move. They just took on their their raincoats or the umbrellas, and they just sit there and they watched and they cheered and they went crazy when in the middle of the match, and this is a really great moment, right? The referee, Peladito Vasquez, legendary referee, he's looking at Ricky. He does the body slam to Phoenix, and in the middle of the match, he does the Messiah pose. So as he's doing the Messiah pose, a flash and the thunderbolt comes down, and the sound of like the thunder is slightly heard in the background of the video. He says it was the most amazing, natural, organic moment of the match and probably of all time because he was doing the Messiah pose, and everybody was cheering on. The rain was falling. It looked like a movie. I mean, it was just amazing. Ricky lost the match to Phoenix. He becomes the IWA champion. I believe this would lead up to the beginning of the end for the Phoenix character. The mask thing was sort of wearing out its welcome. People knew what was coming. I believe during the time, the next person that is getting ready to face, I think it was Ray Gonzalez, was Shane. Ricky at this moment, I think he's going to leave a little bit to go to do some Mexico stuff, and then he's going to come back and feud again. And Apollo at that time was also about to turn back to babyface. So it was sort of a win around for everybody. Now, meanwhile, in the mid-card, you had some other stuff going on. You had the Cruz del Diablo was starting to become a thing. They were winning the tag team titles and stuff. Thunder and Lightning would drop the belts, I believe, to God. I think it was either the Shane and Apollo, or it was either maybe somebody else at this time. Again, not so good with the title changes from significant title changes like that. So the Phoenix storyline starts to wear out its welcome. The character is finally killed off in a fateful night in Bayamon, where Ray Gonzalez attacks Ray Phoenix, and of course he loses. He drops the mask. He says, "I'm Ray Gonzalez. You can't stop me. I'm the greatest wrestler on the island." Uh, the other fact, 2003. Actually, you know what? I should also say this: 2003. Other than that event, is also another year backstage that has some pretty significant consequences. All right. So, towards the end of 2003, beginning of 2004, I believe Victor Quinones passes away. This leaves the IWA and really wrestling in general in the island in a state of shock because it was so sudden. He was about, I want to say maybe in his late 40s, early 50s. You know, he was already starting to have gray hair. But another thing that we didn't know about was he had a.
Gunslinger. I sorry to interrupt you, but that's incorrect. Victor Quinones died in 2006, so you might be skipping ahead a little bit.
I'm skipping ahead. Okay, sorry about that.
No problem. Just want to make sure.
Yeah. All right. So, if I recall correctly, by 2003, the Phoenix saga's over. Now, Paul turns face. Ricky turns heel and joins the corporation by the end of the year. Some of the other stuff going on. Tommy Diablo is moving up in the card. He gets tag team titles this year. I believe the other person that's moving up in the card is Chicano. He had gotten hurt in 2003, 4, somewhere around that period. And his arm was. There's actually a video that shows us his arm was underneath his chest or something like that. And you can see it bend and twist up and bust. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Fuck.
What is it? What is it? The femur bone in your arm or something like that? So he would be out of action, but he'd come back by late 2003. Savio and the rest of the company would pitch in to try and help him out with the medical bills, since he was just a lot. You know, he was very valuable. He was kind of a blue chip for them. He could go in the ring. He could cut a promo. He had a pretty unique look, and of course, the rap stuff was pretty big on the island around this time. Now, we'll skip ahead to 2004 because there's really nothing important in 2003. You know, it was a pretty big marquee year. It was sort of them reaching the top these 2 last years. But 2004 would see some interesting stuff happen. Now, in 2004 is when the next generation starts to pop up. Now, I'm going to introduce them bit by bit here. The first one I want to talk about, a guy who actually taught me, is a guy by the name of Mr. Big. Now, he had started out working, I believe, in 2000 and I want to say 2002, 2003. He was a student. He'd begun working in small little indie feds, but moved his way up. He got found by Savio Vega. He got picked out as his bodyguard from the crowd, and he started to move up in the card. At this time, he looks a little different. If I recall, he had a lot more hair on his head, and he wore his costume has always been a cut off sort of like business shirt with like the suit and tie thing.
Yeah.
And of course the intimidating sunglasses. A lot of that comes from the Boss Man and Victor the Bodyguard, who I forgot to mention. They're tag team champions. They're tag team champions in 2003. Sorry, there you go. And of course, he would be the big enforcer for IWA going forward. He'd be the big man. He'd be the default kind of sort of like heel bad guy for a little bit until, yeah.
Default heel big gatekeeper, big bastard.
Yeah, he'd be a big gatekeeper. I mean, if you didn't have a good match with Biggie, then you weren't moving up the card, because he was sort of a measuring stick for a lot of guys later on. And then, of course, the other person that came in was also Blitz. He is also friends with Biggie, lifelong friends, actually. If I recall, Blitz at this time, a lot skinnier than what he is today, but of course, age tends to kind of screw all of us. but he was shredded. I mean, he had one of the best bodies in the IWA, and as well as being probably one of the best workers. He could talk his head off. I mean, this guy was just hype as shit. He used to come out to, I think, maybe Pantera or some other music. He had a very different also set of gimmicks. You know, he had the kick pads, but he also had the camo pants, which kind of started a craze of a lot of the wrestlers starting to wear their street clothes instead of the gear. Bit of a weird thing, but you know, it was kind of unique to him. He would work for the Junior Heavyweight Championship along with another guy by the name of Supermark. Um, I believe there also was Draco was still around, Tommy Diablo was still around. I believe Hiram Tua and Star Roger, who was Carlito at that time, would also start coming in. They'd fill out the Junior Heavyweight Championships. Barbie Boy, who's another big fixture of IWA, he would come in as well. He'd be working for a multitude of other championships from the tag team, but he'd never win it because he was a joke of a character. Stefano is still around, but he's doing more and more kind of Tokoton segments. Paparazzi at that time, still doing some stuff, but he would later leave the company to join the army, if I recall what he said. IWA also, by the way, at this time would also see the beginnings of some of the Dominican stars like Joe Bravo. Joe Bravo is a very big Dominican star over there in the island and as such. But he looks like he's 6'3", but he's actually like 5'10" or something like that, 5'8". But he's got a great body. He wrestles around really great. I mean, he's great all around, and he's a good talker. He'd become IWA champion later on down the road with his own faction, the Dominican Revolution. So the Diamond would come in. A few female stars would start to come in as well. You already had Habana in the 2000s, but you would also had Gabriela, who was this kind of sexy secretary, sort of heel manager for Savio and the corporation. You would have another one called La Morena, who was part of the Dominican stable. You would also have Poison Ivy and Electra. And of course, you would also have the La Amazona and La Tigresa, who are La Tigresa she is a legend. She worked with pretty much everybody. She worked Wendy Richter. She worked with Master Ripper, who went off to WWF. She worked some of the Japanese women. I don't know which, but she worked some of the Japanese women. And of course, that would prompt the IWA to sort of create a women's division to sort of try and get things moving for female wrestling on the island. Which is unfortunate because there's just so few female wrestlers. Oh, and of course, Black Rose would come in. A guy by the name of Chet the Jet Jablonski was also around. He was a former Ohio Valley Wrestling champion. He was one of those guys that was looked on WWE to see if there were going to be big stars, but nothing came of it. He was Casey James. There you go.
Yep.
Another guy that was coming around this time, who was part of that new generation, was I think his name was Bull Bronski at this time, but you'll call him Superstar Ash later on. So Superstar Ash is this 6 feet tall, jacked to the gills dude. He's a little powerhouse. He kind of looks a little, but I don't know. He's like 6 feet tall when I stood next to him. Huge. Kind of looks like Thunder in terms of his body type. But he would go around just about everywhere. I mean, he would be in like NWS, he'd be in WWC, he'd be in WWL under a mask gimmick that kind of revitalized his career a little bit. He'd be everywhere, but he'd never really find a proper spot. At this time, he's sort of just working the undercard and was trying to gain a little bit of momentum. So you're going to see him going forward, but with another company when he leaves. If I also recall, in 2004, there was a big show again in Summer Attitude, the same place, that brought Conan as well to work a few other guys for tag team title. I think it was him and maybe Rastaman. or was it maybe one of the TNA guys? Like
Was it
Eli Skip?
was it Ron Killings?
Yeah, actually, it might have been Ron Killings. Yeah. So they
I
feuded
think
with.
I saw a tape of that. It was Ron Killings, I think.
There you go. Yeah. It was Conan and Ron Killings in 2004. They would work for a couple of shows. They worked for Samurai Attitude, and they would work for actually one of the shows near my near the baseball park that I live nearby, Salam Morales, which would fill out. It's a pretty popular venue at this time for IWA because they could fill it up real easy. And Cowboys has always been a wrestling town, so it's easy. And they'd have a couple of really great matches. During that match, I believe they were wearing the red outfits, and that match is particularly memorable because in the middle of the match, Ron Killings does his hip hop dance stuff, his popping and locking, and he gets into a dancing fight with Lightning, who kind of mocks his dancing and starts doing the same things and stuff, and it becomes a bit of a memorable moment. There's even like a tribute video that if you look at one of the scenes, it's him dancing. So it's great. All around 2004, marquee year as well because a next generation's coming up. They're starting to build them up from the junior heavyweights and the hardcore and the tag team title division, all the way up to the IC title and the world title parts, which in 2004 and 5 would be, 2005. That's when we would start to see that next generation coming up. Questions?
Oh, no. Since you mentioned Rosterman earlier, this doesn't really have to do with anything, but there's somebody on YouTube who was uploading old footage of IWA in 4K, and that's the first time I've ever seen Rosterman. But he has a great gimmick. I can't find anything about him. He doesn't have a cage match profile, but he's great. His name is Rosterman. It's like Jamaican gimmick. It is what it is. It is what it is on the tin, right? Yeah.
Actually, I do have a
Yeah,
question
so-
about the hardcore title.
Yeah.
With the hardcore title, is it like more deathmatch style or your standard, American style hardcore match?
Yeah. Was it like the WWF hardcore title, or was it like the CZW championship?
Well, it would definitely be. I mean, it would definitely be contested at a multitude of matches. It was working under the 24-hour, 24/7.
Oh yeah, the 24/7 rule. Yep.
But there would be a lot of matches where they would defend it in American style. In your basic house shows, you would see it defended like that. There would be other times, like in the case when in 2000, I want to say 5, 6, I believe there was a giant 9-man battle royal, hardcore battle royal, and oh yeah, it was kind of this like scramble match, kind of like a bunkhouse scramble match.
Yep.
So they would have they would have that kind of stuff. They would have weapons and stuff. You would also see it defended in like with bigger stars and like cage matches and stuff. So really, you could defend it anywhere you wanted. I mean, there was almost a point where it started to become sort of just a thing, sort of a rite of passage for some of the younger guys to just have the title for 5 minutes and then lose it to somebody else, or just use it as comedic relief, or use it to push somebody who was just relatively new and needed a good push or something.
Quick question. I know
Yeah.
I might have asked you this last time we talked, but with the with the hardcore stuff, do they still play with wire and whatnot down there?
Well, yes, we still do barbed wire matches. It's kept to a bit of a relative, more blow off kind of payoff thing. The secret behind that is you can't use it consistently, otherwise it loses the match.
Yeah. You can't run a gimmick dead. Like the perfect example I have of it, since a lot of the audience knows a lot about Puro, is IWE in Japan. Literally ran the cage match gimmick to death. They ran it to death. They kept doing it like every damn show had to have a cage match. It lost its meaning. In WWF, in WWE does this as well. Like Hell in a Cell used to be like a marquee match, and now there's a whole damn pay-per-view for it. So it's lost all its meaning. It's a dead gimmick, It's just like, oh, okay, it might as well be a singles match,
Yeah.
Yeah, like in the fire match, like the fire match in WWC, like this early '80s fire match, the late '80s. People think that happened a lot. That did not happen very often. Like that was like a
No,
heated rivalry. It's
the
like
reason, the reason why that didn't happen a lot, and you can see this actually in one of
because
the
it's
matches.
dangerous as hell.
Not just because it's dangerous, but they're doing this inside a building, and you're putting up a bunch of smoke around the ring. You're basically
Yeah,
going to
you could cause people to choke. Yeah. The fire matches. If there's really no good way to do a fire match because a fire is so unpredictable. It's not like electricity or anything like that where you can control it. You can't control fire. Like the best example. Oh yeah, keep going.
I think the most dangerous moment for fire matches of all time. That's one of them for sure. That's like top 5. But the most dangerous one was when they set the ring on fire against the combat. No, in
yeah. Oh, my bad.
In Big Japan, where they had the ZZW guys feuding with Matsunaga and Jun Kasai and all these other guys.
Oh yeah,
And they set the ring on fire.
The craziest thing about that was that Zed didn't put that much lighter fluid, right? He only put like a small amount, like a little bit, right? And then freaking his partner just gassed the whole ring.
Yeah, like a dumbass. Yeah.
Yeah, it just went up like it just went up like
Zandig
fireworks.
clearly didn't put that much gasoline in the ring, and his partner just like empties the whole canister all around the ring.
I mean, there's multiple examples of fire not being a good idea. Like I get it. Like fire is like, wow, that's the ultimate, holy shit moment. Like there's a fire in the ring. Like I would pay to see that. But here's the thing. It's got to be done right. It's got to be done safely because look, there's so many instances, especially in Japan. Shadow WX literally got set on fire.
Oh yeah.
He ran through Corkin Hall and almost exposed people to
the fire.
like the fire. He almost burnt other people. He didn't stop, drop, and roll. He ran through the crowd. That's what got fire. That was in BJW. That is what got fire banned in Corkin Hall. Fire is forever banned in Corkin Hall for that. There was also the wing match with Kanamura and Jado and Geto. Let me expose Jado and Geto a little bit for this because this needs to be told. Wing Kanamura said, Jado and Geto asked him to do a fire match. And he said, okay, I'll do it. And literally, they did a move on the fire. Like they did like a power bomb or something on the fire. And it burnt his back almost to a crisp. Like he had to go to the hospital right then and there. It was such a shitty thing to do. Jado and Geto, that's a really scummy thing to do.
It's pretty unsafe. It doesn't really matter what you do. It's just unsafe.
It's very unsafe. And the most famous one I think is that FMW show that was covered on the Dark Side of the Ring, where Sabu the Sheik, I think it was Tarzan Goto and Atsushi Onita were in the ring, and I think they said they used gasoline. They didn't even use lighter fluid. They just straight up used gasoline, which is ridiculously unsafe. Don't you? Yeah, because you can't control the flames of gasoline. And the whole ring burnt to a crisp. Like the whole ring was fucked. So yeah, it's
a shame.
It's a shame.
It is what it is. But in addition to that, I'd also like to say, I remember the one match where the winger falls off from like the second story of like one of the buildings or whatever, and I think it might have been Kanamura who set him on fire in Big Japan.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, back to what we were saying. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, the last thing I mentioned. You mentioned Eddie Guerrero earlier, and a lot of people don't know this, but there's a match on YouTube. It's like a 17-minute match of Eddie Guerrero. When Eddie Guerrero was on the indie scene, when he had his problems with drugs addiction, and this is prior to like 2002 when he came back. It was like a couple month run before WWE brought him back when he got clean and sober and converted to Christianity. He was working IW Mid-South, Ring of Honor. He was on the first Ring of Honor show. He was working IW Puerto Rico. He was actually having a pretty good run, and then he came back. Go watch that match, Eddie Guerrero in Puerto Rico. Heat magnet as always, Yeah, anyway.
Right. Eddie Guerrero at that time was working for IWA. He was brought in because, well, it's Eddie Guerrero, and a lot of people really liked Eddie. They remember the Guerrero family because of Chavo, because of Hector, because they were just so popular in WCW, and a lot of people down here like to watch both WCW, WWF, and whatever they could get their hands on ECW.
Yep.
Now, um, Eddie would come down here. He'd work. I believe the first time we ever saw him work for an IWA match actually was in Ring of Honor. Yeah,
Yeah,
Ring of,
didn't he defend the title there?
he defended I believe it was for the Intercontinental Championship, where he wrestled for the Intercontinental Championship against Super Crazy. Now, he would go on to work a couple other stuff, but he would later leave and be contracted for WWE. I'm going to take a quick break here. I'll be
Yeah, no
right
problem.
back.
No problem.
All right, then. You can guys take it from here. So I'll
Yeah,
be right back.
no problem. I just wanted to say, I mean, man, Eddie Guerrero, just so smooth. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I mean, nobody could do it better than him. You know what I mean? You saw Eddie Guerrero in WCW. You saw him in WWE, and once he got that rocket push, I mean, it was just over, man. It was like one of the biggest Latin stars ever. I mean,
That match,
you know,
that match he had with Ray at Halloween Havoc 1997. Good God.
yeah. What's more to say? And everybody look up that AAA stuff. Look at Los Gringos Locos. I mean, he was a perfect heel, man. He was absolutely, I'll never forget Art Barr, at Worlds Collide, doing the most unsubtle, anti-Mexican shit. They were walking down the ring and the Mexican crowd was booing the shit out of them. They just started doing the swimming motion, like you had to swim to get. Man,
Bruh.
you could do that nowadays, man. That's
Are you
crazy.
an asshole?
Yeah,
You
he was like,
asshole, sir.
yeah, he definitely, yeah, love machine Art Bar right there. Yeah, JM. What was I saying? Yeah, hold on. Let me see. I'll post the match in my chat. Yeah, but it's definitely an interesting story. Can't wait to continue it. So, Jam, what's your favorite story that's been told, Jam? The one,
I
Jam, you
think.
still there?
Yeah, I'm
Oh
still
yeah.
here. Yeah, I'm still here, still recording.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Nope. I'm good.
Yeah,
Right.
answer the question, Jam. I asked you.
Yeah, I think my favorite story has been with I guess with the whole thing with the Phoenix.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool as well. Jam, I want you to react to this picture that I found on the internet. That I found. So here's a picture in the No Mic chat.
Okay.
I'll describe it to the people. It's Victor the bodyguard with a loaded gun with an actual real 1911.
Who's even walking around with a loaded gun in the
no
public?
trigger discipline.
Practicing poor trigger discipline. Thankfully, the 1911 single action and the
I hope it's
hammer's
not
down,
loaded,
so it's well, yeah.
or
You
at
got
least
Gary Albright.
or at least the safety on.
Yeah, Gary Albright's right there, looking real impressed by this. Cheeky Star, the legend Cheeky Star. I mean, guys, if you don't know Cheeky Star, as you've been told before, he's so culturally iconic that there's a phrase in Puerto Rico where you pretty much translates. You're doing me like Cheeky Star. You're fucking me over. So he's very iconic on the island. There's El Profe unmasked. That's definitely an iconic photo.
That's a hard photo.
That's probably one of the hardest wrestling photos I've ever seen in my life. Uh, yeah, it's great. There's also this photo I found of speaking of Puerto Rico, I found of the Three Musketeers at the Castillo de San Cristobal park. Pretty cool. Muto was, I don't know if he's bald or there, but he kind of looks like the fake hair.
You know, Hashimoto just like chill in the back in the back.
Yeah, with shorts on.
Yeah, he's like I'm like, I gotta chop somebody right now. Who am I
Yeah,
gonna
definitely.
who am I gonna give a case of Giri chop to?
Yeah,
Chono, come over here.
Chono's right there with the drink in the hand. Just pretty cool.
Chono's like, look, man, I ain't bothering with ya. I just want to drink.
Jonah looking like somebody Tio, bro.
Yeah. What was that saying? Yeah.
Bro, Uncle Chono, bro, that's funny as hell.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's really cool. Really cool stuff. What else can I think about Puerto Rico? I want to give a shout out to the heel ref in Puerto Rico, IWA Puerto Rico, Jordy. Man, I thought he was literally a kid. I thought he was like 13 years old, but he's super short. Man, this man, he pulled the ultimate heel ref move. I mean, I gotta give him credit, man. He's got to be studying the tapes in Mexico. He's got to be studying Tirantes. Because that's a Tirantes move right there. If you don't know Tirantes, that's
He's
suspenders
not gonna
in
go with that
Lucha.
man's going for the count. And then
Yeah,
he's
so I'm
like,
about to
hold on,
say.
brother, I got a phone call.
I got a phone call right now. I mean, that's it. That's such a heel move. Sometimes we need heel refs more. We need more heel refs because like he's like, you know what? I'm not even gonna count the three. Hold on, I got somebody calling me right now.
Look, man, he's like, look, man, I'm trying to slide these DMs.
Yeah. What else?
Nah, it's like, hold on. My 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 girlfriend calling me right quick. I ain't gotta count this three. I gotta talk to my woman.
Yeah, but Oh yeah. Since we were talking earlier about the Japanese connection to Puerto Rico, did you guys know that Kaientai Dojo started out in Puerto Rico?
Did
It didn't start out. Yeah, it did. Before it was a
Wow.
promotion in Japan, Taka got support from Victor Quinones to start it there. That's where High 69 was trained in Puerto Rico. So, yep. I don't know if Taka's ever been back to Puerto Rico.
I don't think he has. Remember, he
Yeah.
hates flying. He's always said he hates flying.
Yeah.
It's like if you want him to fly to your show, he'll do it for a price.
Yeah, and the price is not worth Taka Michinoku. I mean,
Wait, hold on. What the fuck you mean there, Boris? I'm a legend.
you're pretty good, Taka, but not that good. Not enough
But
to have a feast for.
bullshit. Being
I mean,
elevated the light heavyweight division. How dare you?
Nah, Taka was only there because they didn't want to pay Great Sasuke's contract.
Yeah, hold on there, boy. I feel offended there.
Taka's like, hold on, motherfucker.
Man, I still can't believe we haven't got a Taka and Funaki reunion in Japan. That's kind of crazy to me.
I can't believe Taka's entrance is literally Taka is coming, motherfucker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, oh,
Yeah, what's up?
was question for JM. Here's a WC. Was we coming for you part of the Monday Night War?
Yes. But that was way, way early on.
I
So
wasn't even on. That was not on Nitro. That was on pay per view.
That was a pay that was a pay per view. That was a pay per view. You're not gonna be seeing that promo in the time frame we're in now. That would have been like
That was like
early 90s.
1990, 19. Yeah, that was like 1996, I think, or 1995.
That was
Damn,
that was around
West-
like 95.
Damn. What was your reaction the first time you you heard that?
It was hilarious. It's still hilarious.
Well, remember, this is like young me, and my uncle's like, don't ever say that word.
Yeah, that was. You know what's funny about Harlem Heat, right? Like they always try to make it out to be like they're actually from Harlem, but bro, like as somebody from Houston, right? I could tell right away, even though I was a little kid. Like when I was watching like old tapes of them, like bro, I know they're from Texas. Like they talk like they're from Texas. They don't have like no New York accent. Jeb, you know, could you spot that too? That they didn't have like a New York accent. They were
I was too young.
all right. Yeah, hey,
Boris,
Harlem, my ass.
Yeah,
Boris was like,
I would have been like way too young to know the difference.
Yeah,
Boris was like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. They ain't from Harlem. They sound like me.
yeah, they sound like people I know. I mean,
We
yeah, that
coming
was.
for you. We coming for you.
Oh
All
wait,
right,
that was a Spring Stampede in 1997 when that
all
happened.
right, all right. Hold on a second, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we're gonna take a break real quick while Gunslinger's gone. We're gonna stop recording here, and we'll be back with part 4
All
of
right,
the history of the
adios,
Puerto Rican wrestling scene.
adios, amigos.
Happy trails, everybody.